Hello everybody, welcome to Fishing Live. I've got the most awesome week's fishing to tell you about. Last week I was on the River Wye on their annual festival and it was probably the best natural venue match the UK has ever seen. Weights of over £100 of dace and roach and chublets were recorded. The average weight per man over 3 days was over £40 a man, just absolutely brilliant. Personally, I managed my personal best match weight of £91 10 ounce from peg 74 on the railing section. So for this week's Fishing Live, I thought what better thing to do than come river fishing. But unlike the Wye where it was buckets of ground bait and gallons of bait to feed the ravenous stocks of fish, what we've done today is come down to my local river, the Don in Sheffield, with under a fiver's worth of bait, just a few micros, about half a bag that I had left. We've got the black ones here, just feeding a few of them in there. And I think there's about 3/4 of a tube left of the pink neons. And what I thought we'd do, have a little fish on the river. I'll tell you how I approach my local river, the Don, at this time of year, on a roving approach for very little money, and we'll see if we can catch some fish. And then I'll give you this week's weather report. And I'm pleased to say it's good news. If you're heading out on the bank this weekend, I think you're in for a cracker. First, we'll have a little fish, tell you what I'm doing, and we'll see if we can catch one. So tackle wise, it's dead simple. This is all about travelling light. I might visit 3 or 4 different spots in the course of a short session. I've just popped out for a couple of hours in the afternoon, so I keep this rod set up in my hold all most of the time and I can just nip out and go. This is actually a Drennan Acolyte rod. It's a 15-footer because down there there's some pegs where I just want that little bit more line control. But on some of the really pokey sections further upstream, you can get away with a shorter rod. The key thing is it's nice and soft because we're fishing for grayling, dace, chub, trout, things that don't generally need that much pressure, and the worst thing you can do is rip the hook out of them. Reel, small reel, 3000 size, loaded up with some 4-pound line. Got a stick float on there. This one I think is a 4 number 4, let me just check. 4 or 6 number 4 is perfect. Yeah, this is a 6 number 4, this one. And I've just got a few shot strung out down the line there, just to cock the flow. It's important you do dot it down as much as you can, but you also need to be able to see it, because you need to be able to run it down your peg, so it's quite important. 12-inch hook length, and that's just 09 Drennan Subflex fluorocarbon, nice and light because the water's quite clear. And we've got a size 18 Camazan B560 hook. I've just been flirting a few of the 2-in-1 micros in there, as you saw, but on the hook I'm actually fishing something that stands out a bit more. I've got the pink neons with me, as I said, and the nice thing about this, because these are only really a hook bait on here, they'll last you several sessions. I'm a tight Yorkshireman, so I think that one's done me about 3 or 4 sessions already. Keep the lid on, that's really important, you don't want them drying out. I'm just going to roll about half of one of the neons into roughly the shape of a maggot. And the main reason for that is I want it to fit easily in the fish's mouth, and I want it really nice and soft so the hook pulls through it as I'm trotting it down. Right, so you can see there, it looks just like a big pink maggot really. And all we're going to do is just drop that out there into the flow and just let that flow, pull the float down with it, just helping the line come off the reel as it goes, holding on to it. It's really important when you stick float fishing that you keep that line nice and straight behind the float, so that when you get a bite you don't have to strike too hard, and most importantly you're really nice and direct with the fish. We're actually in a little bit of a slack there. Like it a little bit further out in the river, but I can bear that in mind for next time. But I don't pull it in too quickly because you never quite know where the fish are going to be laying. It's a bit of an eddy that. It's actually going round in a circle with a load of leaves in the middle of it. But sometimes the current pulls the float in strange directions. Let's have a look. The bait's still on. That's a great thing about these neons. They do stay on reasonably well, but I do like to make sure I've got a little bit of hook point exposed because I don't want the bait coming off. So that's more in the main flow now. That's probably a little bit better. Right, let's see if we can get one. We're going straight down the middle crease of the river. Again, we're just keeping nice and tight as much as we can. Keep that line straight between the rod tip and the float so that when it goes under you don't have to pick any line up, it's just on. Absolutely key. Going down quite nicely now into that far side. Straighten everything out a bit. That's lovely, lovely glide along that far bank. It's amazing, you put a float in a place on a river like this, Boilie River, and it'll be pulled out. It doesn't always end up where you think. Sometimes currents take it away. I'm going to lose sight of that in a minute. It's just about the bottom of the peg now, but I'll mend the line and get another couple of yards out of it. No, bring it back. And we've got one. that fish snatched at the bait as I was about to start winding in. That's the first fish of the day. I don't know what it is. I guess grabbing at the bait like that, it could be a small trout. Could be anything. Could be a chub, grayling, roach. Put your guesses in. It's a grayling. Look at that. Wow. Lady of the stream. Absolutely gorgeous little fish on the pink neon. You can see it writhing away there. Let me just loosen that clutch off. The hook just there in the corner of its mouth. And what I really want to show you is look at these gorgeous fins. I just love the colours of the grayling. Look at him. Absolutely lovely. Let's get him back. So, what can you expect if you're heading out on the bank this weekend? Well, as I said, it's good news, folks. Depending on where you're heading, we're seeing some really nice weather forecast. Temperatures wise, we're seeing between sort of 9 degrees in the north of the country and about 13 in the south. Average of sort of 11 and 12 degrees depending on where you live. So some really nice temperatures to be going out fishing. Saturday it's looking a bit cloudy, some outbreaks of sunshine, and Sunday looks actually quite sunny. The temperatures are set to drop off next week, I've noticed, so it could be a really good weekend to go fishing, because often when there's a drop off imminent, you find that fish feed well. It's almost as if they know what's coming. So you might find that fish feed really well this weekend. If you're going on the commercial, just take it steady, because so we have seen some cooler nights and things are starting to just be a little bit tougher. I've heard of people catching on dobbing this week. Venues like Partridge Lakes, dobbins have started to work. So, you know, don't be afraid to start negative, either dobbing, or it might be that you choose to, you know, just feed dead negatively. Maybe a few micro pellets tapped in at the start, and then fish maybe a Fuka natural micro over the top. So I think commercial wise, it is wise to start off negatively, and that's been a bit of a theme for the last few weeks and what I've been saying on these fishing lives. But you can then up the ante if you feel there's a lot of fish feeding. What you can't do if you're going with a big pot, blow your peg, is take it out. So don't be afraid to start off negative, and just be prepared to up the ante if you need to, if there's some fish actually feeding. I've actually put a smaller piece of Fuka on this time. It'd be interesting to see how that works. If you're going on the rivers, then I'm thinking we're seeing some good levels, because we've had quite a bit of rain up and down the country this week, on and off. It was actually raining quite badly when we got here, which is why we're under this bridge. It's just had a little break in the rain for the filming now, but it's been pretty nasty all day. And I think up and down the country today has been similar. So, you know, this weekend we could see some rivers just starting to drop nicely with a little bit of fresh water in, and I think it could be really, really good. If it's anything like the Y was last week, folks, you're in for an absolute treat. But the temperatures are still high, so if you're after big fish, barbel and chub, I think there's a good chance. Oh, little dink there. There's a good chance you'll catch some. If it's small fish you're after, roach, dace, perch, again, there's no reason why they shouldn't still feed really, really well. And what can you expect if you're heading on the canals this weekend? Well, I think you're in for a treat, to be honest. We've seen the temperatures drop, and a few of the boaters in my local area have started to oh, they're lovely little grayling. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous fish they are. So yeah, I think you're in for an absolute treat. Just look at that. Absolutely lovely. Slip them straight back. They don't like to be out of the water too long, grayling, so we have to make sure they go back nice and quickly. Yes, canals will be good this weekend. Settled forecast, so weather-wise, you might have a few walkers and cyclists, but the boaters generally starting to moor up for the winter, so you should have more settled times. Roach fishing should be fantastic. Perfect conditions, especially on Saturday. You know, we've got the slightly cooler nights now. Roach everywhere, from what I can see, are starting to feed. And for some big fish again, it's great conditions. I think, genuinely, it's going to be a brilliant weekend to go fishing. And looking at the long-term forecast, it could well be the last really good one we get this side of winter. If you're going out, folks, have a brilliant weekend, and I'll see you next week.